Welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. What's up, Didi?
All is awesome. Now it's time that there's no sports to talk about EDM playlists.
EDM playlists.
Yes, EDM playlists. So when you run and you need EDM playlists, first of all, metal is you use for grinding, country you use for recovery, and when you need to do speed, you go EDM.
Like interval workouts?
Exactly. When you need speed, EDM. Unfortunately, there's no way around it. And I am stuck with the 90s classics, 90s classic electronics.
Do you think you're better off alone?
Exactly.
Alice DJ?
Alice DJ.
That's your favorite.
No,
I know.
Alice DJ is for the middle of the run. The beginning of the run, you need to start with one of the build-ups. So that's Chican saltwater.
Ooh.
Chican saltwater.
It's the root? No.
No.
Chican.
The root is for the finish. The root sandstorm is
The
for
root
the
sandstorm. Oh my.
The root sandstorm and delirium, the delirium Sarah McKenna, silence. That's
There is children, something called children.
there's children. So that
Okay.
is
this
how I kick
love.
off runs.
Okay. This is a good one.
It's very good.
I have to tell you, I love EDM for running
Yes.
way more than metal.
Well, that's because you're not a metal fan, but
I'm okay. Like, this is so good for running.
yes.
The beat, I'm a big EDM.
Yes.
I cannot listen to EDM other than while working out.
No, driving. It's also good when you drive in a convertible with the roof down. And this is the Rude Sandstorm. This is the finisher.
That's an awesome
That's an awesome finisher.
Okay, that is a really good playlist, I have to say. What about...
This was the so-called walk-up song to the Red Sox reliever, Koji Urahara.
Really?
The Red Sox
Really?
won in 2013. Yeah, I remember dancing to this song with my son in Fenway Park. Worked for him.
Yeah.
Do you put any of the Ofer Nissim in the
Oh, of course. So,
summer nights?
so if I do a long interval run, like 45 minutes and above, it has to include two people. It has to include Ofer Nissim, like Summer Night City.
Summer Night City by Ofer Nissim.
by Ofer Nissim.
That's like my thing. It's
Exactly.
like being in Tel Aviv 2000 in spinning classes in
Yes.
Holmes Place Azrieli.
Yes.
That's like the Friday afternoon, 2 hours classes, pure sweat. There was full Ofer Nissim, or the way
Yes.
Israeli call her,
Yes.
Ofra Nissim.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and David Guetta.
David Guetta.
David
Guetta.
Especially the Titanium, the one he did with Kelly Rollins. Those are like booms.
What about Tiesto?
Tiesto is the silence when we talk about Sarah McKellen and Delirium. That's the Tiesto mix.
That is the best version of this song by ABBA. I love this.
Yes. So
Often Nissim has his way of building up the song. Like
Yeah.
it starts melodic and then it comes in. The drop is the best. Best
Yes.
DJ.
So definitely a very strong way. And as I said, Delirium with Sarah McKellen and Tiesto. Tiesto also like Adagio for strings. I also like
I like Adagio for strings.
and
Yeah.
a couple of the early Tiestos. They just bang because they really help.
You love the Alice DJ stuff.
Yes.
I actually don't like them.
Yes.
I think they're schmaltz.
Doesn't matter.
This one is good. Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah. So
This is like summertime
Yes.
running.
Yes, this is summertime running. This is when you need to do sprint intervals.
Okay, I'm
This-
going to make my new playlist for Tel Aviv for tomorrow. I'm running on the beach tomorrow with this.
Yes.
I'm flying
Awesome.
out tonight.
Awesome. And then we'll discuss at another point in time when I use the
So this is like house. People call this
I don't care how-
know,
I don't care.
90s, 2000.
yes, and then I have the other ones that is more like
It's like
the
all the
bangers.
basic Ibiza.
Yes. Yes, and then
Ibiza.
and then there's the
Ibiza.
whole rhythm as a dancer and
That's Snap. That's
Yes, exactly.
That's 80s, so
Yeah.
90s. Jess Sims call it was the
jock jams.
Jock Jams. That's
So,
different.
so there's
Jock
another one
Jams is not
that is going to
EDM.
be dedicated to jock jams. So
Jock
we're
Jams
going to
is a
have one for
different
country
one.
and one for jock jams.
Yeah, Jock Jams is a thing by itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone needs a playlist, Didi is going to post his link
Yes.
to his EDM dance house.
Yes.
Cool?
Cool. Awesome.
So,
Now, talking about data, one of my favorite topics. So, first and foremost, if you are a product manager, if you are a program manager, if you are a leader of engineering and you make your decisions not about data, you're an idiot and you should be fired. As you know, I'm very mild with my opinions, very mild. Now, one of the problems with data is people don't understand data. If you think you understand data, there's 2 books you need to read, and they're not coming from ComSci. They come from general statistics and things like that. One of them is Critical Thinking by Amos Tversky. There's a recent good English translation to it that was recently published. I took the class in the early 90s. Amazing guy. There's also a recording of
he's
him
a Nobel laureate.
Yes, and there's also recordings of him, and there's also Kahneman repeating some of his points.
Well, he won the
Yes.
the award together with Kahneman, which we dedicated
Yes.
an episode
Yes.
in the past.
Yes, I think at some point we should also dedicate a talk for Amos Tversky, who is just unbelievable in understanding how math works and how math should be expressed. So critical thinking, that's one. And there's another one by a friend of my old boss called Making Sense of Data for Epidemiologists. And it's really critical, the making sense of data. It's on my bookshelf. It's blue. I'm happy to share a picture of this to people and it explains the real basics of how does logistical regression works and how other regressions work and why you should use tool 1, why you should use tool 2, and what is ordinal. And there's a lot of this, what I like to call it the boring shit, but very much like workouts. If you want to use data, there's no, you can't go run 10K tomorrow morning. Well, I can, but I've been running all my life. But that's the point. I've been running all my life. You need to work out, and you need to put your brain in data analytics mode. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In the news, you'll hear repeated things that will piss me off about people not understanding how data works and making claims and basically seeing an observation. So the biggest problem people have with data is they make an observation and they look at the data and they attribute their biases to that data point. I'll give you an example. In a health magazine, they were publishing about beer drinking in Germany. And they said that there's a big decline in the amount of beer consumed in Germany. And what they claimed...
By younger generation. By younger people.
By younger people. And they claimed, this was the number one claim, is that people are now trying to be healthier. And
it's part of being healthier trend.
Exactly.
Younger people in Germany are more aware of
The
issues with alcohol and
with
they
weight.
limit the consumption.
Beer contributes a lot to weight. Beer if you're listening to this podcast and you like beer and you're
So
looking
basically the
and you
thing-
see a beer gut, yes, those are related.
Yeah. So your point is there is data about consumption by age over the years of alcoholic beverages or beer
Yep.
specifically, and it's dropping in Germany. So the conclusion from
No,
this
so,
data point of the health magazine was
So I actually took a
young
look at
people
so I
care about
actually
health.
So I actually also took a look at this,
Okay.
and they also ran a survey around this, and people said that they're more worried about their health. People were saying this.
Separately.
Yes. But this is a big important thing. If you have never seen the show House, watch the show House, and one of the key points in House, what does House always say? Producer Dave, you probably know this as well, right?
People are lying.
People
People
lie.
are lying.
People do
People
two
lie.
things.
I was just about to do my Hugh Laurie imitation, but
Yeah.
okay.
You go do it.
Go do it.
it.
I'm just kidding. I don't have one.
But people lie all the time. And the second thing, people are stupid. They don't even know what they mean themselves. Sometimes they lie because
I
they
mean,
lie.
if you ask somebody, do you care about health? Of course he'll say yes.
It's not
Why
only
would he
that-
say no? I don't care about health.
So here's
from 1 till 5, how
He-
much you care about
here
health?
here are four possible confounders that can happen that can also explain why the younger generation, and they will lie on the survey for this. Number one is nobody will tell a surveyor that they're not drinking because of religious reasons, because they're afraid of biases against Muslims, they're afraid of other reasons. People will not say in a survey that they don't drink because of religious reasons. They will not. This is a known thing. Ask every epidemiologist, they'll tell you that. Second, people will not say that they smoke pot, and that's why they drink less. These are two examples of things that somebody will never answer on a survey. People
So-
answer on surveys to sound good. Even if the
So
survey
you're
is
saying
anonymous.
potentially the reason, so it doesn't cover the exact reasons because one, the Muslim population that don't drink alcohol is growing, specifically younger ages.
In Germany.
So,
I'm just saying that this.
so that could be
That
one
could be a
explanation that
con-
has nothing to do with the health perception.
Yes.
It's more about that they're not drinking it for
Yes.
religious reasons, but they don't tell it in the survey.
And they won't tell it in the survey. And the second thing is that people that consume weed, they will not. People lie on blind surveys all the time because they think somebody's looking, and they think somebody's gonna judge them. People always want to answer something that will make them sound smart and educated. So if you have an option of, hey, I don't drink because. Nobody will say I'm not drinking because I'm Scooby's
People
friend.
like
Remember
pleasing.
our Scooby and Shaggy thing? Nobody will say, "Hey, I don't drink because I'm a pothead." That nobody will answer
You
this.
just say you don't drink because it's healthier. You may believe that consuming pot is healthier. So
Yes.
it does fit.
Exactly. So people will not. This is example of how you look at data. You take a survey and you're not seeing any of the real confounders or any of the contributors, and you tell yourself a nice little lie.
So it's
Yeah.
all about data. To interpret the data, you need to understand the data collection and the way the survey was done. You don't even have access to the exact survey. Usually in those researchers, they don't give you all the questions that
Yes.
were asked. People are sometimes being primed with some questions before, which make them answer in a certain
Yes.
way. There are so many ways surveys can be shifted one way or another.
So in general, there's a hierarchy. When you collect data, there's a hierarchy of the value of the data you collect. A double-blind study
With placebo.
and the doctors not knowing,
Nocebo and everything.
that is the most reliable method in epidemiology. They're equivalent ones, by the way, when you deal with software. I like to look at smart collection points. When I build a data collection system to run analytics on things, I like to put the survey question, like when I say the what you want to know and what's the right way to measure this before I build this into the tool. So you basically run what is your hypothesis? What's the research question? How do you prove it? How do you disprove it? So, for example, let's say you have a product that has lower adoption than you expect. There's a million reasons why that is true. Like, something is there, it's available, it's a feature, it's there available for free. Why don't people use it? And there's a million reasons why it's possible. But you need to first do your actual design and not bring your biases and have a whole list of ideas of why this is possible. Then ask yourself, how do you measure this in an effective way? And when you measure a predictor, which of the outcomes that are possible can it highlight?
So give us an example.
So-
if you want to figure out why a feature is not utilized, how would you build the system
So
to
first,
track?
the first question is, are people aware of the feature? This is
Sure.
the number one thing. Do people understand the feature? And when you ask yourself, do people understand the feature, is they need to understand the benefit for them. And that's a very hard thing. Nobody will answer this in the survey. Nobody will say, I'm an idiot, I don't know what this helps. Or no, for example, when we were dealing with non-human identities versus human identities in the beginning of ORT, everybody said, I don't want to see the service accounts. Now everybody wants to see the service accounts. But this is an understanding of your customer and what are their measurables. And is this something that, how many times they log into the main console of the product? So for example, one of the things that you hear a lot of times is somebody says, hey, I want to put a banner at the top of the main console of my product to say that I've released new features.
Right.
Wrong. Why? Because it depends on what your product does. Sometimes that main banner is going to be really useful because everybody logs into the product. But if people log into the product when they're guided towards solving a problem, they will never look at the banner. The banner can say, I'm giving you free money.
Why
They
don't-
will never see it.
Why don't you have it on the login page?
In the login page, they don't even ever see it. I can put in
Because
the,
they come through SSO.
they come in through SSO, and even if you control the banner, you can put basically a naked picture of somebody. They want to close this screen so fast that they don't care.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Exactly. So
Then you have think how annoyed you are if there is a captcha that you need to pick up the traffic light out of that. It's like-
exactly. So my point with this is, you need to understand how the people interact with your system to understand, will they see this? Because if everybody's logging into your product to turn on things or solve a problem, they're not reading what's in the banner. Maybe the right thing to do is, do you Slack channel with them? Do you email them? Can you meet them when they're not in the path? But that's the stuff that you need to build a hypothesis and a true graph chart of the navigation into your application to understand where you do the right data collection. There's a million cases of bad data collection. The data. Oh yeah. So you need to plan your design your table accordingly.
Okay.
And by the way, this is something I got really passionate about because it started from Ron talking to me about learning how to play the guitar. And he said, that's another thing you need to learn. Is your data sources actually reliable? So Ron comes to me and says, hey, I want to learn how to play the guitar. And I told him, you need to start playing with the classical before you play electric. And he says, well, the internet says you're wrong. And I said, the internet is full of idiots. We know that. So trusting a data source, understanding the data source fit for you, which is also an important element of this. Because it could be that when they talk about learning, specifically, I know my kid. I know his number one thing is that if things will not go his way fast, he will lose interest because he lacks executive function to understand that he needs to build the grip. You'll see that in almost every guitar player's house. I know Dave is a musician. I don't know if he played guitar or any of these tools, but
I play guitar poorly,
okay.
but enthusiastically.
But if you remember, you'll see that with a lot of good guitar players, they'll have this squeezer that helps you work on your your finger pressure.
On the moving the fingers on the various frets. Yeah,
Exactly.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
This thing that with a spring that teaches you how to move your fingers. Classic guitar forces you to have the right pressure. With an electric guitar, it's enough that I put my finger on the on the knob, and these are things that you need to understand. First, understand the child versus somebody that is like, I don't know, Eddie Van Halen, that just picks up shit out of the air, or some people that are very, very dexterous, or people that have executive function or are very passionate about trying and trying and trying. So this is something that you need to understand. The fact that you get advice on the internet as data, or what your data source is, that's a problem. Second is, you mentioned priming the questions. In general, I prefer to observe people versus ask them a question. I'll give you an example. When you deal with building a product, one of the interesting things I like to ask is, don't ask people what the problems or the metrics that they're measured. They never do this. But how you do your work today. Show me how you do your work today.
Right.
Is a very teaching something. Because you see immediately the biases of the person talking to you. So if somebody starts their world in identity in CrowdStrike agent for endpoint, that means that they are indoctrinated towards this model of solution, which is different than somebody starts their day in the Okta console. And the other thing is, when you see people doing something through an Excel spreadsheet, you need to ask yourself, why are they using this versus other tools? And you'll see people more data-driven or data-oriented versus reactive. Do people build a script? Do people not build a script? You'll see a lot of these things, and these things are very telling towards their level of education, their level of understanding, their level of engagement. The other thing to understand is not ask them what drives them or what's their motivation, but ask to see the list of what they're spending money on now. These are things that will tell you actual directions of things that they've invested in. Nothing gives you a sense of investment than somebody willing to spend money on. If you get the list of things that people spend money on, if everybody is 100% just on the Microsoft stack and do nothing outside of this, that means they don't really care about security.
But on that point, I want to say it may teaches them the priority of the organization they are. If you're talking specifically about user behavior, they have nothing to do with the decision to spend on just the Microsoft stack.
No,
it does mean that they are in an organization that have it. I mean,
I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody in the identity space is 100% Microsoft. There's a lot of these little tools that people use that they can use on their own. Manage engine and a whole bunch of these little automation tools.
Yeah, the additions, add-ons.
Exactly. These, you'll see if somebody's just using the Microsoft stack and they're not using any of the additional tools, because sometimes an employee might choose to. I'll give you an example. We saw this with a lot of the AI tools in a lot of organizations that are not as strict as like a Cisco. The people started investing in Cursor and whatever Windsurf's name was before they became Windsurf. People invested in those tools out of their own money. People were willing to pay from their own money to do this. You were willing to pay from your own money for ChatGPT.
Sure. And all kinds of
exactly
additional tools.
So you see, teaches you a lot about the user and what they care about. Because if people care about their job and they will spend out of their own pocket to do their job right, it's a very telling thing.
Yeah, all the little small tools, scripts, things people add is telling about needs. It's about needs that don't exist in the current stack, about the way they're doing their job.
Yes.
I agree.
So we were talking about first know how to build
The MCP. So
exactly
well,
how to. This is what we're learning about. First, how to build your survey correctly or build your research correctly. Understand where all your confounders before you start measuring, and understand if the metric actually measures the confounder. Then ask yourself, are we, because sometimes this is an important thing of understanding how to do these things. So I'll give you an example. I'll finish with a simple example of there's a lady that works with PM with me, and she's very data oriented and she's very smart, but she and I can look at the same data, but because she's a positive person and I'm an asshole, we'll see very different outcomes of the same thing. So for example, we built a guide of how to get people to use it, and we literally saw the example of cup half empty and cup half full. Because
you pause and I'll tell a story
Yes.
because I just heard it yesterday. It reminds me of there is like a story of I think somebody from Nike or whatever going in the 70s to a place in Africa, and I don't know if it's a true story, but whatever, and coming back reporting saying no market, we shouldn't go there. 100% of the population is running with the bare feet. No market here. Another executive goes there and he says, amazing market. 100% of the population runs bare feet. Like,
Yes.
huge market. So,
yes,
yeah.
that's exactly that. This is a really, really good example about
So that's you and your PM.
my PM peer as we look at some of these things is, by the way, I'm not looking at this as the 100% of the, I look at some of the compliance. So we need to remind people to turn on their HR system connectivity. But I believe that when you give people something that they will fail at, they'll ignore the next step. So if you give people like do 1, 2, 3, 4, if you get them to do 1 and 2 and 3 is 100% of people will fail, they'll stop and they will not continue to 4 and 5.
What do you mean fail? Fail because
I'll
they
give you an
cannot-
example. Let's say you turn on a product, and step number 1 is connect something that you can connect with your own permissions, and you just turn something on.
Yeah, you do something.
Step number 2 is just filling out a form. You'll do it. Step number 3 is form of a questions that you know how to answer. Step number 4 is something that you need to talk to legal, HR, and the IT department. You stop. You're never coming back. It doesn't matter what 4 or 5 is. You've left the building. You will never talk, because if you needed to talk to legal, HR, and somebody else, you're never coming back. Because
Okay. Because too much effort.
Exactly.
Too much effort.
It's way too much effort.
Okay.
So we saw that 2 people filled this, and out of 200, and she says, oh, it's awesome because at least we got 2 people to do this. And I said, this is terrible. Half the people left the survey after this and they didn't finish the checks that they could do. So for me, this is a really important thing. Also, there's another thing that is important with regards to data. So first understand that 2 people can look at the same data. If you don't do the design up front of how the measurable work and agree, have this argument before there's data, not after there's data, people will get to an agreement and say, yeah, we probably needed to do this. Because I've asked multiple times teams to run surveys, and they come back to me with an outcome, and I say, oh, it proves my point. If we can't do this manually, they'll never do this automatically.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
In general, I think you should use surveys as little as possible, period.
Yeah.
The invasive, time-consuming, and if there is another way for you to gather information, it's so much better because of all this, that the time, the annoyance for the user, the fact that the user will want to please you, will lie, and all those kind of things. And as you say, we'll drop it halfway if the survey asks for something weird. So if there are other ways, as you said, observations, other stuff, I think survey is the one thing, it's your last resort.
So I'll tell you what is even worse. I wanted to finish with the worst thing.
Okay.
this is something you'll see a lot of UI teams and marketing teams do. What they'll do
NPS?
and
I'm just dropping it.
they'll show something through UI. They'll show a Figma and ask the customer, "What do you think?" That's the dumbest thing you can do. Or give us feedback. Or do you think this is useful? Nobody knows. You show them something that's optimal for how it looks like for 3 users. They say, "Oh, this looks nice." This is completely useless. And a lot of the UX teams do this all the time. They say, "Hey, I want to talk to customers. I want to learn." They show them a Figma. They get some answers, and that is bias, because it depends on, hey, do you like this more than this one? Of course you like this one more than this one because you're enthusiastic when you're presenting this, because this is your preferred choice. Like you can show UI 1 and UI 2 and
What's
say,
the point about showing something if a person doesn't do himself the clicking and walk through? Like at least don't show, give them access and let them play and observe again. Like for me, it's stupid to present a UI because I don't understand anything. Like for me, all dashboards are dashboards. All software, like, even I know we're doing it all the time. We like show the dashboard in a demo and whatever. Like, at least for me as a user of whatever software, until it's me
In my
actually
data?
clicking, not even, even if dummy data, whatever. If I don't do the right clicking, the doing a few here and there, putting something in, even if it's a mock-up, not my data, I don't care. But I don't experience a UI by observing
Yes.
the UI. Like every demo that somebody shows me of a software, I'm like, okay. Until I actually, it's like the laid back thing versus me leaning forward and having, the mouse in my hand. It's a totally different mindset. I don't get into the user mindset of a software by watching a video of somebody clicking.
Let's park this because we're running out of time. Let's talk in another episode about a key to a successful demo. Make sense?
Sounds good. And we'll have an episode. I think we promised it before about this point that I dropped here.
Yes.
NPS.
Yes. We need an episode about NPS and why NPS sucks.
So coming up, gonna be on the list. But for now, thanks for joining Didi's advice on how to not collect data and how to not interpret data. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Didi and Lital Show. If you like us, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast and share with friends. This is how the podcast community is growing. Until next time, thank you. See ya.
And use data accordingly.
Use data accordingly.
Bye.